inflation. Indeed, empirical work that attempts to control for these factors suggests that the long-run inflation expectations embedded in asset prices have in fact moved down relatively little over the past decade. Nevertheless, the decline in inflation compensation, that's the red line, over the past year may indicate that financial market participants now see an increased risk of very low inflation persisting. Although the evidence on balance suggests that inflation expectations are well anchored at present, policymakers would be unwise to take this situation for granted. Anchored inflation expectations were not won easily or quickly. Experience suggests that it takes many years of carefully conducted monetary policy to alter what households and firms perceive to be inflation's normal behavior. And furthermore, that a persistent failure to keep inflation under control by letting it drift either too high or too low for too long could cause expectations to once again become unmoored. Given that inflation has been running below the FOMC's objective for several years now, such concerns reinforce the appropriateness of the Federal Reserve's current monetary policy, which remains highly accommodative by historical standards and is directed toward helping return inflation to 2% over the medium term. Before turning to the implications of this inflation model for the current outlook in monetary policy, I do think a cautionary note is in order. The Phillips curve approach to forecasting inflation has a long history in economics, and it's usefully informed monetary policy decision-making around the globe. But the theoretical underpinnings of the model are still a subject of controversy among economists. Moreover, inflation sometimes moves in ways that empirical versions of the model, which necessarily are a simplified version of a complicated reality, cannot adequately explain. And for this reason, significant uncertainty attaches to Phillips curve predictions, and the validity of forecasts from this model do have to be continuously evaluated in response to incoming data. But assuming that my reading of the data is correct and long-run inflation expectations are in fact anchored near their pre-recession levels, what implications does the preceding description of inflation dynamics have for the inflation outlook and for monetary policy? This framework suggests first that much of the recent shortfall of inflation from our 2% objective is attributable to special factors whose effects are likely to prove transitory. As the solid black line in Figure 8 indicates, PCE inflation has run noticeably below our 2% objective on average since 2008, with the shortfall approaching about a percentage point in both 2013 and 2014, and more than 1.5 percentage points this year. The stacked bars in the figure give the contributions of various factors to these deviations from 2%. They're computed using an estimated version of the simple inflation model I just discussed. As the solid blue portion of the bars shows, falling consumer energy prices explain about half of this year's shortfall and a sizable portion of the 2013 and 2014 shortfalls as well. Another important source of downward pressure this year has been a decline in import prices, the portion with orange checkerboard pattern, which is largely attributable to the 15% appreciation in the dollar's exchange value over the past year. In contrast, the restraint imposed by economic slack, that's the green dotted portion, has diminished steadily over time